And we are back, and we just finished watching 2021's The Lost Leonardo, rated PG-13 with a runtime of 1 hour and 36 minutes. This is a documentary that's currently streaming on the Starz app, but also available on other platforms. This is the story of how a painting popped up in New Orleans, of all places, and was bought by some art enthusiasts who then quickly discovered that they possibly maybe had something more. This is directed by Andreas Koefoed. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. And again, tells the story of this painting that went from nothing to something really, really big. What did you think?
I mean, the facts of the whole thing were interesting, but good Lord, I am so tired. That film, I
think it's because it's late. It was a long day.
That was a battle to stay awake through that thing. I did. I really did. I fought through some heavy eyelid drooping, but I made it. I watched the whole thing. Like I said, there's some interesting things in there. I mean, it's fascinating how a painting that sold for $1,100 ends up selling in the end for $450 million.
That is quite the markup.
And that was, honestly, people are still debating whether or not this thing is really a picture by Leonardo DaVinci.
I'm glad you brought that up. There was a guy, I mean, it's hard to keep all the talking heads people's names, but there was a guy who basically said it wasn't really, he didn't believe it was a Leonardo, and it was more the restorer's work than anybody else's. What do you think about that?
Honestly, he has an argument. I really think it depends upon your point of view, because the painting was there. When they first got the painting from the auction in New Orleans, somebody had restored it. The people that purchased it, they brought it to their restorer, the
Modesta,
whatever her name is,
Diane
Modesta, and she stripped away all the work that had been done to it. And I believe it was during this process that she was growing more and more convinced that this wasn't just a student of Leonardo's, but possibly the man himself. And as she was restoring it, she became more and more convinced, because she was studying more of the fine details of the painting.
Sorry, it's Diane Modestini. Sorry,
Diane Modestini. She was studying more of the finer details of the painting that you only can get by looking at this painting as she was super up close, comparing it to other works
and for days, maybe even months.
For days, weeks, months, however long it took her to restore this thing. And it was in terrible shape. Apparently, when she was done, the only thing that was untouched was like the bottom of the painting.
Which was in good condition.
Which was in decent shape.
Yeah.
But the top of the painting, there's like...
Especially the face.
There was a lot of restoration going on. So what you're seeing is her work on top of the original. And, I mean, from what you could tell of the original, it's not like as though she took any liberties with it.
Right.
You know, it wasn't like that monkey Christ thing that that happened a while back. I'm sure she would have done a better job than whoever the hell did that thing. Good Lord.
That was also a restorer, though.
Yeah,
it was a restoration.
That was a restoration, and it was just like, oh no, the painting got a little scratch on it. Oh, I could totally fix that. Just give me some turpentine. Yeah, I'll get you up and running. Like seriously, they got Cliff Clavin to fix it. What do you mean he looks like a monkey? Jesus looked like that. And then the story progresses where these people are like, oh wow, we got a Da Vinci, we want to sell it to a museum, and the museums weren't interested because they were like not too positive,
and they had no money,
and then finally that shiesty Frenchman, wow, that guy was wheeling and dealing. And the thing that was funny about him was he looked just like a cartoon of like this scummy,
Smarmy,
like con man guy. He had like that pointy nose and his hair. I mean,
You really think so? I kind of felt bad for him because he wound up being completely destroyed by the Russian guy.
Yeah, he's completely destroyed.
But he had to sell his...
He gets contacted by the Russian dude who's just like, this painting speaks to me. I must have this painting. And he's like constantly he's like, no, this thing is totally fake. It's not, it's blah, blah, blah. I strongly advise against you. And he's like, no, I must have it. So he goes to these people who can't sell the painting because nobody really wants it. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, I'll give you $85 million for it. So they're like, cha-ching. Done. They sell it. He turns around to the Russian guy and he's like, man, these guys are driving a hard bargain.
127.
They wanted 150. I talked them down to 127. And he just made like $45 million for nothing. It was like a 3-day turnaround. And I'm going to feel sorry for this freaking guy. And then he makes this business of like,
well, no, didn't they say it was like a family business for whatever he inherited? He had to give it up.
He definitely polished that shit up. Come on, it wasn't like it was some sad little warehouse. Seriously, get out of here. I think it looked like a freaking Bond villain fortress. And he's like, oh, woe is me. Oh no, the lawyers. You're thinking, oh, you don't want to get on the wrong side of this of a Russian oligarch, and then it's just like lawyers.
But then the funny thing is, for as much as Rublevsky, whatever his name was, as much as he bitched, like he felt like he got duped, he wound up selling that thing for more than double what he paid for it.
Probably more than the rest of his entire art collection, and he's like grumbling to this like French dude because he got gypped out of some extra money, and at this level of wealth, okay, these people are dropping hundreds of millions of dollars, as though I look on the couch cushion. Yeah, there might be a couple of $100 million in there. We ordered some takeout. Just look in there and you'll be able to pay. Like, they don't give a shit. Yeah. This money is meaningless to these people, and it's like, oh wow, I got all this money. What should I do? Should I help people? No, I'm gonna buy a portrait of Jesus that may or may not have been drawn by Leonardo da Vinci. And and by the way, I'm never gonna show anybody. Where's the painting? Who the hell knows? Yeah.
The last reported sighting was on a yacht.
Yeah.
A $450 million yacht.
A yacht that cost almost as much as the painting.
Right, because the painting actually cost $400 million, but it was $50 million
so the yacht
in
cost
commissions.
Yeah, and Christie's you think Christie's prestige, and meanwhile they don't even know if this thing's real or not, but they're just like, it's by Leonardo da Vinci, and they got like the neon frame, and they're bringing it all over the world. They're doing like a whole ad campaign where they don't show the picture, they just show people's reaction to it, and everybody's like weeping and looking and pondering, and Leonardo DiCaprio's like, oh my God, with his stupid baseball cap. No one will recognize me as I stare at this.
So,
get the hell out of here.
Okay, another thing, I'm glad you brought up the point about couch cushions and money, because I think when we were watching it, I'm like, yo, these people are flinging this money like it's like it's me, like, oh, I'm gonna chip in $50 for this coworker's baby shower. Yeah. I'm like, $127 million for a painting. Yeah. And then $400 million.
And they said the person who bought it was that MBS guy, the Saudi prince. And he's like,
cracking down.
He's like dropping this money like nothing, and it's like one headline, Saudi Prince cuts all public services, and then the next thing is like buys $450 million painting. And a yacht for another $450 million.
And what was it?
And a mansion in France.
Yeah. It's like, what the hell?
Which he probably used like once.
And then he arrested his cousins in the hotel.
He locked his cousins in a hotel and was like, you're spending too much money.
I was like, yo, this is a classic case of the pot and the kettle. What in the hell?
Seriously, some people just have too much money. You're never going to, and it's like, you say, you're never going to spend it all, but then they're like, yeah, watch me. Watch me. I'm gonna drop $450 million on a restored painting
that may or may not be
authentic. Yeah, and a freaking boat.
So the other thing I think. Okay, so I was interested in the story. I thought it was somewhat fascinating. I'm completely horrified at the wealth and greed that goes on in the art world. I had no idea.
Oh yeah, just because somebody's like walking around with funny glasses and like talking about wine and caviar, it doesn't mean that they're any better a person than anybody else on this planet.
Sure. But I thought like this documentary was great for that. I mean, it was very eye-opening about how this whole situation unfurled itself, but also just, I guess, the everyday lives of people that operate in this world.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back to the beginning, the guys that originally got the painting from whoever it was in New Orleans, and they purchased it for $1,175. And then I thought it was rich that, was it one of them made the comment about how they wanted it to go to a museum? And it's like, well, you could have just donated it.
Yeah.
Did you need to make money off this?
Well, I mean, as soon as the lady was like, this is definitely by Leonardo da Vinci, they were just like, well, we can get $200 million for it now. And they thought they were probably doing the museum a favor by only offering it for $120.
Yeah.
And the museums were like,
we can't. That's too rich for us. Yeah. But do you think, hypothetically speaking, do you think if a museum, I'm sure because of COVID, I'm sure arts kind of funding has gone down. Do you think if a museum could have afforded it, they would have bought it? That's a lot of money to spend on a painting.
Yeah, but I mean, if you could prove that it was truly a painting by Leonardo da Vinci, I mean, there's not a lot of those around. What did they say? There's like 15.
Yeah.
And it's like you have the only game in town. And seriously, people go to the Louvre specifically to see the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
Like entire family budgets are just like thrown at France just because we should see this thing.
Right, it's on my bucket list.
So if it's at the Met, people are just going to go to see it. And plus, it's like it's got religious context too.
Yeah. So you have a different audience, right?
You have
an additional audience, I should say. You have the art lovers. You have
the religious nuts. You have Da Vinci fans.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting because I think in the documentary itself, I think when they were advertising the show a few years back for the 500th anniversary of his death. Where they were trying to get the piece, just from the buzz that this Salvator Mundi was possibly going to be in the exhibit, like ramped up the excitement for the show, and people
from all
came
over just to see this thing.
Yeah,
and they at the last minute they're like, "Yep,"
because the Saudi prince was mad because it wasn't in the same room as the Mona Lisa. That was the excuse given. But
I got to be honest. Everybody's story in this thing sounded like bullshit to me. All of these people sounded like bullshitters.
Interesting.
I didn't believe anybody.
Really?
No. I don't even know if this thing is for real or not. Like even after when they said, "Oh, the Louvre produced a book that said it was real," I didn't even believe that. They never showed the damn book.
Right.
It's like the ladies, the one lady who's like been talking about this thing throughout the entire movie. She's just like, "Oh, and I just went to my friend's house,
and there it was,
on a coffee table." And then when I asked to see if they could have it, nobody knows it exists.
Right.
And the Louvre is just like, "Oh, we burnt every single copy of that." What? Oh, well, we had a deal. It was like we were going to show it, and they said, "Well, now you can't show it." So we just all those books we made, we just burnt them.
So what?
Why would you fucking do that?
I don't. That was interesting.
You would try and spend all this money. Just freaking sell the goddamn book.
And wasn't there like a conversation with the guy? Was he a journalist who was talking to the Louvre person?
Yeah.
And the Louvre person seemed a little catty because she's like,
"Yeah, go talk to
the president." I was like, "What? What bug bit you, bitch?"
I think everybody's just full of shit. Everybody was full of shit. And the only person that wasn't full of shit was that guy who was like really like snarky.
The art critic for Vice.
Yeah. And in his case, I just think he was pissed because somebody made $80 million off of this thing.
Sure.
And it wasn't him. That's the impression I got from that dude.
Yeah.
And plus, I think he's just like, he probably sees a lot of that.
Yeah.
And he's just like super pissed. And he's just like, "Nobody's buying my paintings." Because, he probably paints. He's an art critic. And like, it's just like, "Nobody's buying my stuff, so fuck everybody else's. Your painting sucks."
I totally see that. I think the other interesting thing about this is, well, two things, at least for me, and you can tell me what you think. The first thing is, I know you tried to explain NFTs to me, and I just completely zoned out. But it felt like, some of this felt like that in the sense that we're attaching a specific value to something that may or not be authentic, which I think is interesting.
I mean, this is different because there is an actual physical painting that was drawn in the 1500s.
Okay, fair enough.
So this is like a real thing. An NFT is a link to a picture. You're not buying the picture. You're not buying the rights to the picture. You're not buying the rights to the picture. You don't have sole rights. You don't have copyright. You don't have anything. You don't have ownership of the actual picture. You're just buying a link. It's basically the same thing you type in your browser at the top and that anybody can go to. But for some reason, in this one location with the one ID code, it says that you are the owner of the link. That's an NFT. It's stupid, and that's why it's. I think people are starting to realize it, and like that's why they're all like completely losing value.
Possible, but this thing, and like the woman, I forgot what she was, the younger woman that was talking, and she said that even years from now, the big takeaway from this whole experience will have been that dollar amount because it's significant. I mean, that's not a small amount of money.
No, that's like the budget of like a small country.
Yeah.
It's
sometimes maybe even more than the budget of a small country.
Seriously, imagine how much good that money could have done
in Saudi Arabia.
Or anywhere. Give it to me.
Yeah.
I'll do something good with it.
I'll financial plan you.
Yeah.
What did you think of the? Oh, wait. So my second point was just the social commentary of how this industry works, how kind of reprehensible it is. I think you're right. I think a lot of these characters, because they almost come across as caricatures of something, right? They're pretty much larger than life for them. Well, not all of them. Some of them do. And it almost felt like an exaggeration. I mean, the Modestini woman, I kind of had an affinity for, and I felt bad for her because she kind of got attacked.
There was a little bit of that, but I think a lot of that was just her just basically playing a victim. Honestly, she restored a painting. The only thing that really was bad was that somebody, after the big super sale, the $450 million sale, called her name out as the restorer. But I don't think, I mean, none of the, usually when like they really want to paint a bad picture, they'll post like the worst, or they'll show like the worst stuff. And most of the complaints that people were having were about, oh, it wasn't even a real Da Vinci, or it wasn't even a real Da Vinci. That nobody was actually saying that bitch was scamming people. There wasn't anything like that.
No, but I got the impression that she really took it hard.
I think she did, but I also feel like
it may have been exaggerated.
It may. Well, I mean, it's a documentary about a certain thing. They're going to try and force a point of view, and honestly, she was the one that was throughout the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But I think she likes being part of this.
Yes,
and
right, because she's still heavily invested in it.
That especially seemed true with the whole. Like after the whole big sale and after her name got called out, and there was like, I guess some people were complaining, but I got to be honest.
Who cares?
How big is the art snob Twitter universe?
Twitter, in any way, shape, or form, sometimes brings out the worst in people.
It does, but I think it brings out the worst in people when you're talking about like celebrities or pop culture shit.
Or politics.
Yes,
that's the big one.
Art snob stuff, I don't know. I just don't see it. I mean...
You look like you could take most of those people in the documentary and give them a beating.
Oh, yeah, I'd probably... Yeah. I am in no way a tough guy, but I would kick all their asses. But then like after that she's like, oh, and then she like visits another country to look at another portrait of a copy of it,
which I was like, what does that mean?
I was like, what is the point of that? And then she makes a website describing every little detail that she knows.
Yeah.
And then she's having like dinner with her family, and she's like I am free.
Is she though?
But then she's in the rest of the damn documentary going to the Louvre, hoping to see it again, saying, it's like, you lying old bag. You love it. You love it. Get out of here.
You love drama.
You're going to be sad when nobody gives a shit about this thing again.
So the other big takeaway for me was just how this world operates and how egregious the spending is. Egregious.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, wow.
I know that. I mean,
what did you think of the art installation in the desert?
It's a tourist trap. I mean, they do that. They do that for a while there. They were doing it around here too. Like every summer or something, some guy, I think they hired some guy to like put up art installations in like the parks. Remember there was like the one with the
cows?
There's that too.
Yeah.
There's the cows and the giraffes. And then there was in certain parks, like they were like, I don't know what they were. They were like drapes or something.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, there was that one, and then there was another one. I think it was like the same guy.
It's the same guy? Oh.
I think so. He was like paid to do it like for 3 years or something like that.
Yeah, I thought they rotated that stuff
random.
out.
They hung like giant drapes off the bridges. Remember that one?
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, let's make something big and hang it somewhere, and hey, it's art.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. That's impressive. I've never seen a curtain that big.
You know what we should have done? We should have waited to post this and watch The Square and post those two together.
Well,
Missed opportunity.
Running late this week, so
Very late, very late.
hoping to get this one done quick.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
Scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this film?
I'd give it a 5.
Really? Just a 5? I mean, I thought the camera work was really good. I thought
it's a documentary. You can't really get into camera work and stuff like that.
Some of the aerial shots were really beautiful.
When
they go from
they splurged for a drone.
I mean, still, I was impressed with it. I mean,
YouTubers have stuff like that.
They showed that shot in Berlin with the statue where they're going around. I thought that was impressive. A lot of the overhead aerial shots were really beautiful.
Yeah, they had some nice shots, but
I thought the story was interesting. I thought some of the talking heads were very compelling. I liked the Modestini woman. I felt bad for her.
Maybe if the subject was just more interesting to me, I don't know. I couldn't. Nothing about it really grabbed me. I wasn't that intrigued. They didn't really go into much detail as to like how they would determine if it was a real Da Vinci or not, or like the history of the painting itself. They're like, oh, the provenance is so important, and then they just kind of like drop that. They show like 2 old ledger entries, and then that's all you hear about it. I don't know. I don't know. It was just like a couple of. To me, it was an hour and a half documentary about a couple of facts that were sort of kind of interesting, and that was basically it. And like I said, everybody to me was just so full of shit. I wouldn't trust any of those people with anything.
Not even the old lady?
Nah.
Well, you know what? Going back to her husband was the big time restorer, and he had said in the beginning, she had said that he had said that it was a work of an impressive artist after Da Vinci.
Yeah. He said it was like about 100 years later or something. Like that.
So that was interesting, that just by looking at it, that was his summation.
Yeah.
And that too is completely plausible.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, it's always going to be somebody's opinion. There's just no way to truly verify if Da Vinci painted this thing. It's not like as though he autographed any of his stuff.
I am going to break away from the pack. I actually like this film. I thought it was different. We don't normally see documentaries, so I thought that was nice. I'm going to give this a 6.5.
All right, yeah,
I was going to give it a 7, but then I was like, okay, there was some things that maybe could have been fleshed out better or whatnot. So I'm going to go with a 6.5. I still think it's worth watching. If you're looking for some new interesting content and you have the Starz app, that's where we found it, but it's also, I think, for rent, or it's also available with Prime Video channels. It says here, watch on Starz with Prime Video channels. I think also Hulu, but you have to have an add-on on Hulu, and I'm sure it's for rent on other platforms. But I thought it was interesting. I thought that it wasn't a bad investment of an hour and 36 minutes. I thought the story was interesting. I thought the social commentary was intriguing. I thought the film is broken up into parts, and the third part where they talk about MBS and kind of all those shenanigans, I thought was also interesting. So I thought it was good storytelling. And I think at the end of the day, for a documentary to be good, it just has to be good storytelling. And I think for me at least, it passed the mustard.
Okay. All right. So that's it for me.
All right. So that's it from us, and we will bid you all a good night.
Good night.